Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, it's Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah. Welcome to Writeopolis, featuring authors RJ Barker, Scott K. Andrews and Kid Power, and, often, a guest. Writeopolis is recorded live via Discord on alternating Sunday evenings, a conversational show with audience participation, bark on without the BS. Funded entirely through the generosity of our Patreon backers. Patreon.com/Writeopolis Podcast. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, it's Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah.
Server mute. Justin should be able to speak now because I've allowed it.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes!
Yay!
Hey, excellent. I've no idea what this is. I've never done this before. It's just like a mass of information.
Don't worry, we haven't got much of a clue either.
Yeah, honestly. It's basically undescribable.
We'll do the intro though, because we like to. That makes us sound professional. It gives Kit a place to start.
Cue the jingle.
Yeah, we so need a jingle. I should have a jingle coming. But anyway, welcome to Writeopolis with me, the award-winning RJ Barker. I don't like to talk about it. Scott K. Andrews and Kit Power, and our guest, who I'm going to let Kit introduce because he knows him better than I do.
Yeah, so Justin's Justin's a dear friend of mine, but he's also an accomplished horror author of many titles, novels, novellas, short stories, and is also the head honcho of the Sinister Horror Company, one of the kind of, in the indie horror field, certainly one of the more kind of renowned publishers. He's accomplished a huge amount with that company in the last, is it 5 years, 6 years you've been running it now, Justin?
Yeah, 6 years now.
6 years, there you go. So it's a great honour to have him on the show, both as a writer and as a publisher. We haven't had an indie publisher yet on the show, so we thought it was long overdue. So Justin, welcome to the show. Good to hear your voice, man. It's been too long.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, lovely to meet you, Justin. And I like having horror authors on because I can just sit here for most of the hour just going, I don't know. Everyone's gone very silent.
Well, we're waiting for you, RJ. You're the head honcho. You're the ringleader. You're the award winner. You have to direct us.
We defer to you in all things.
Yeah.
Why do I sense sarcasm there? That's horrendous. I'm feeling quite upset. What have we all been working on?
We love you, really.
I know. I just need told it. What have we all been working on? We've not seen Kit for a month. Well, I haven't seen Kit for 6 weeks.
That's true.
Yeah. It's been hard.
It's been difficult. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It's been, it has.
It's been hard. I've been sat at home thinking just maybe the Truex is better because I've not had anyone to argue about with it. What have you been doing for those 6 weeks, Kit? What have you been working on?
Well, I mean, I did do one of these shows when you weren't here, just to be clear. Scott and I, held down the fort while you were gallivanting off around the country.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. What have I been doing? What the hell have I been doing with my time? I've been reading a lot and I've been writing a bit. I've written a new essay in the Brian Keane series. I'm reading all of Brian Keane's back catalogue from the first novel. Almost all of them for the first time. So that essay series has now reached number 15 with Ghost Walk, so that went up on Ginger Nuts. I've written another My Life in Horror, which hasn't gone up yet, but Patreon backers have already got it. I've gotten about 4,500 words on a massive rewrite of an incredibly important chapter of the novel, so that is still powering along reasonably well, although not as quickly as I'd like.
That's a long chapter.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of new, and it's. I tell you what, as well, I procrastinated doing it by doing a bunch of other things because I didn't want to do it. And the reason I didn't want to do it was when I first wrote this chapter, we had a vastly different conception of what the overall shape of the novel was going to be. And the idea was that these bits of the novel that featured this particular character, Abe, were just going to be vignettes that were kind of dropped in to give the narrative flavour. And at a certain point, we realised, actually, no, it's a dual narrative, and his story is fully half of the book, which it is now. But the frustration is, I wrote I mean, forgive me for saying so, a really, really good vignette, and I was really happy with it. And it told the whole story of this love affair through flashback in this beautiful kind of 2,000 word like nugget, and I was so happy with it when I wrote it. And I've got to completely disregard it. I've got to do the whole thing and tell it in much more of a kind of real time, blow by blow kind of thing, and it's just upsetting to have to do. So I procrastinated, but I'm cracking on with it now, and it's making good progress. I'm also writing a sex scene, which is something I've done very intermittently, and I'm discovering that I find absolutely excruciating. So we'll see how that goes. But
I don't think I could write a sex scene, because it's always in the back of my head. What if you write something that you think is particularly just like normal, and everyone else just goes, "My God."
Oh, I did not need to know that about RJ. Oh.
Yeah. And also, the thing with sex scenes is unlike almost everything else. People know what it's like, so you can get it really wrong.
Well, it depends what genre you're writing in. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that's really got me. You got that in perspective.
Are there any more sex scene warnings for Kate? Justin, do you have any that you can?
Any sex scene warnings?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I remember when I wrote my first book, the first chapter opened with a sex scene.
Nice.
So, that was my debut book. But I wrote that more in a case of kind of, when I first started writing, I had to think to myself not to censor myself. I always thought in the back of my mind beforehand, it was like, what if my parents were to read this? And it was very much like, well, this first book, I don't care, or I'm just going to go and push it out there. And I think that's why I kind of ended up doing a sex scene. Did it come off well? No. You never. It's really a fine line, isn't it? Like, are you going too pornographic down there, which some people really like, and does it come across a bit kind of cheesy and desperate? And there's so many ways to approach a sex scene, I think.
The question we want to know the answer to is, did your parents read it, though?
Well, my parents don't ever read any of my books. Maybe my dad isn't really much of a reader, and my mum doesn't like horror. But when it did come out, they did have a copy of it. My uncle read it, and my uncle rang my parents up and they said, do you know what he's read? And my mum was like, oh, I don't want to hear. So my uncle read it down to my dad on the phone, and then my dad told my mum, and my mum just laughed.
Wait, can I just backtrack there? Isn't all sex cheesy and desperate, or is that just me?
Yes, no, of course it is, Scott. Yeah, no, totally.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah. No, don't worry.
Oh God, it's not. It's already going, isn't it?
There was one other thing I was up to, though, that I do have to plug, because I'm actually very proud of it. I read and reviewed Chuck Tingle's debut horror novella, Straight, and then I interviewed the legend himself for Ginger Nuts the Horror, and that interview went up a couple of weeks ago. And that was another bit of procrastination to avoid writing a sex scene. And that's just how I roll.
I read the review. It's very good. I don't think I've seen the interview.
Yeah, okay. I'll drop a link in the chat. But he's what? No, I did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
you did. Yeah. Well, I'll drop a link in the chat anyway, because I'm just like that. But yeah, he was fantastic. He's a delight to talk to, and really, really, really bright person. Actually, like, he's a really bright chap. And it was. I think we got a good interview out of it. It's a good novella as well. By the way, it's a really fun, kind of pulp horror novella. Really. I don't know what I was expecting, but yes, really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
anyway.
The name is very famous. You see a lot of the covers of the books around ever, but I've never actually read a single word of any of them.
Well, it's not my genre, really, most of his stuff, because most of his stuff's kind of LGBTQ plus erotica. And that's just not what I choose to read. But
I mean, for coming into the Writeopolis arena, he does include many dinosaurs. Katie
that's
says,
true.
Yeah, dinosaurs.
Yeah. No. Good point. Well made.
Did you ask him which dinosaur is the best shag?
No, I did not.
You should have asked him which dinosaur is the best shag.
I was asking him about his horror novella. It was a very focused interview.
Okay.
I'm not going to be sidetracked by all this nonsense.
Because it probably would have been Triceratops.
It probably wouldn't, no. I suspect Dr. Tingle's a T-Rex man to the bone, but we'll never know, will we?
I see what you did there with that.
Did you like that? I'm really sorry, Justin. It's not normally like this, but apparently it's going to be that kind of night.
It's been derailed so early.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's normal, but this particular direction of travel is a little bit less.
Oh dear, stop it. I finally started writing the fantasy book I've been putting off. That I wrote an entire novel to put off starting. And I've actually found I'm really enjoying it, which is nice, because I just think I just needed to get over myself, really.
So why were you putting it off?
Because I don't know. It's always when I start a thing, I never actually know what I'm going to do until I've written it. But every time I start something, I always tell myself I probably should know what I'm going to do, and it'd make the process a lot easier. So there's always a bit of time before I'm just not starting it because I think I don't know what I'm doing, and then eventually I go, but that is how you work, and I start it, and it just sort of tends to go all right then. I don't know why there is this bit of time, but I wrote 2 other novels in the putting it off in betweenness, which is, so it's not wasted time. It's just
That's productive procrastination, really.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. I mean, yeah, and somehow we're still on speaking terms. I'm not quite sure why, but yeah.
I just really like. Sorry, Kit. I'll stop. I promise.
No, you won't. Don't lie.
No, I won't. But I've been hitting about 1,500, 2,000 words a day for the past 2 weeks, which is
nice.
About my speed. And I've written 40,000 words in which absolutely nothing happens. And I love it. And I hope fantasy readers are ready for nothing happening for most of a book. And also, as I was doing last week, I'm re-editing a book that I wrote that's like an American set crime novel, very hard-boiled, to make it a bit less sweary and gory, because my agent wants to sell it to as many people as possible. But I know, Scott, you're annoyed. Basically, I am selling out massively on my agent's advice for that.
Well, it's not like I wouldn't do exactly the same, so.
No.
I have no moral high ground to cling to.
No, I will take the filthy, which is good we got Justin here, because from what Kit said, Justin sounds a bit more underground. I write quite sort of things that would scare me, basically.
Justin doesn't muck about, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, see, one of the nice things about running my independent press is the fact that we can go into those places that necessarily people wouldn't think would sell on we're not really thinking of necessarily the commerciality of it, how wide the audience is going to be. So you can really sort of take chances and try different things. I mean, some of those things are gory and horrible and nasty, and some of them are just a little bit odd, I
always think there's a trickle up process from people doing what I would say is probably more arty, and even to sort of more commercial stuff that we read it and nick the bits we think we can use from people who are at the coalface in a garret, like proper writers should be.
Yeah, I mean, I always liken it to, when I think about writing and stuff, I always liken it to music and music scenes, because that's another thing I'm always sort of hugely interested in. It's that kind of thing, isn't it, where you see a lot of, there'll be a lot of strange music or more niche music going in particular hardcore areas on independent labels. And like you say, some of that stuff then sort of trickles up, as you were. So it's exactly the same thing, I think, in writing.
People saying I'm quiet. Am I a bit louder now, people?
That's better, yeah.
Yeah, I've just moved my microphone. That's I'd put it quite far. Yeah. We will probably get on to music, I think, just as we go along. And what have you been at, Scott? Because Scott's writing a book. Did you know that?
Okay. Very well. It's a novella,
Yes.
Really. I've mostly been doing research. I've been reading everything I can lay my hands on about the retreat of the British Expeditionary Force to Dunkirk in 1940, because that is the event in which the story I'm telling takes place. So I've been in research mode and plotting it out in my head. It's a pretty short, sharp 20,000 words, so the plot doesn't have to be terribly complicated, just straightforwardly linear. So, yeah, research mode. And writing starts tomorrow.
Oh,
Fantastic.
Are you looking forward to it? Because you've been off writing for a long time, not in a kind of blocked way, but
yeah, well, no, kind of in a blocked way. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, assuming I don't just crash and burn spectacularly, the idea is to do this novella and then try and find someone who will commission me to write a novel for a tie-in property or something to just ease back in, and then after that do something original. That's the hope. So I'm casting around at the moment for people who might commission me for work.
Oh.
And I've already approached one publisher in question. And although they did not reply to my approach, they did follow me on Twitter a few days later. So at least I know that I've attracted their attention.
On the radar. Nice.
Yes.
So what have we been doing media-wise? I'm going to shock Kit
Maybe
now.
ask Justin what he's been working on.
Oh, yeah, we've got a guest, haven't we? Yeah.
Well, just to be polite, as he's here,
Yeah. Let's find out what Justin's been working on.
I've been doing loads recently. Loads and loads. So there's a book which I've just got the proof copies back for. I say copies because I've got a hardback and a paperback version with slightly different content in of my latest book, and it's the first one since Mad Dog, which was 2017. I've done some short story collections between them, but not an actual book. So I've got them back, so I've just got to proofread them to make sure that everything is all right, and then they'll be ready to release next month. So very excited about that, and actually just made a little YouTube advert for it today. So that's going to go up live next week. It should be fun.
Do you want to plug it and tell everybody its title?
Oh yeah, sorry, it's called The Company of Words.
Oh, like it.
So which is good fun. It's basically so I always love mashing things together, and the two different things I've been reading and like a lot in horror is there's the kind of the pulp side, so guns, monsters, lots of cool stuff going on like that, and then there's the other side, there's the quiet side, the what's happening on the interior, and this very abruptly smashes those two together. So it was been a lot of fun to write. It started off as a short story and just grew into what it was. So that's really good. I'm very excited about that. Been working on another script. So I make films with my friend Matt Shaw. And there's a script we're working on, which we're going to shoot next year. So we're in the final stages of working on that. And the other thing which I've really enjoyed is I've just started doing research and rough plotting for a sequel. I've never written a sequel before, but I did a book called Punch, which was kind of like a slasher-style story based around Punch and Judy. That was one of my first books, and I'm finally going to do the sequel to it. So it's been great. I had to go back and reread the book and take notes so I could remember. And then I've been, I did a lot of research on Punch and Judy the first time around, but I'm going even deeper now to understand a little bit more about what the story arcs and stuff of what a Punch and Judy show really consists of. So I've got a couple of books and stuff for that. And I love this bit of writing because as I'm collecting this data and this information, I'm making notes, and this story and the themes and the arc, everything about it is sort of slowly fitting into place. It's just so exciting. I love it.
Please say someone gets murdered with one of those squeaky things that goes in the back of your throat.
That's called a swazzle.
Swazzled to
they
death.
haven't, but they might well do. That's a good idea.
But it sounds like it should be a film. That's
Well,
what
I sold the film rights to that. So it is currently a script is currently being worked on a minute. So it's been optioned.
That's one of those ideas that when you said it, you immediately think, why hasn't somebody already done that? So you know it's good and you know it works.
Yeah, well, I had the idea for years, and that's why I originally wrote it as a script. And then when I realised when you write a script, no one's going to read it, because who would read a script from a nobody? And then I discovered about independent publishing. That's when I decided to then turn that into an actual book. And it's been great. The response I got from it was good fun. And I love the characters so much, which is why I've come back to write a sequel. Or my idea is there's a trilogy in there, which always has been. And so not only am I working out this arc for this sequel, but I'm working out this trilogy arc. which again is just a whole different way of writing, which I've never done before. I'm really enjoying it. It's fantastic.
It's quite useful to know the end of your last book in the trilogy.
Yeah, I don't know that bit yet. I know how it's going to start. But I don't know how that bit's going to end yet. So yeah, good tip. I need to sit down and figure that out.
I think that's what's been holding me back with what I've been writing. That I don't know where I'm at. I know roughly where I'm going because you have to tell your publisher what you want to do, but actually I don't, and that's quite scary. I think I'd be tempted to go and see the Punch and I know I'm scared of blood and stuff, but I'd be tempted by the Punch and Judy slasher because I quite like. There's something really creepy about Punch and Judy.
Yeah,
well,
and the thing
it is a tale of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I really liked about the setting is, so obviously it's a seaside town, but I set it off season because one of the things I'm really fascinated is if you go to, I mean, I don't live in a seaside town, so I don't know what it's like growing up in one, but I do like to go and visit seaside towns off season when it's in the winter because there's this fascination with about like all the stuff that would all be cut, lit up and glittery and all that is it's all just kind of waste and there's no one really about. Everything's turned off and it's all grimy for half a year.
I love that there's kind of deadness to them when you go, and it's quite fascinating. Yeah,
it's like a past glory, like a faded glamour sort of thing going on there.
Yeah, I've just written a book based in a seaside town off season because it's a really sort of fascinating because there's like influx of people and then they all go and there's massive drug problems in seaside town, which is quite fun for crime. Well, not fun for the people involved, but it's fun to write.
A good source.
Yeah. Sorry. So, should we move on to media then?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go straight in with what I was going to say because Kit will love this. New series of Bosch has come on Amazon Prime. So
nice.
We've been whizzing through that. Got the last one to watch tomorrow, and it's absolutely it's just so well written. There is not a character sort of in the main cast who you couldn't just pull out of it and put in their own show and it'd work. They're just, you like them all. It's really cleverly done. And have you watched Sweet Tooth? Any of you?
No, not yet. It's on my list.
Oh, we've watched the first two of those with the boy, and it's just superb.
Okay.
Just brilliant. Quite emotionally manipulative, but it works. And it's a kid with antlers, and I'm a sucker for antlers. Wow.
It was literally written for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's just, but there's a bit in it where I'm trying to say, I think how much I can say without that's not spoilery for people who haven't watched it. There's a bit, he has a soft toy and the kid does something with his soft toy, and I've never seen my son have such a visceral reaction to something on television. He literally stood up and screamed, "No."
Oh. No!
Just went, no! And it was sort of brilliantly done. And I'm reading the very final Michael Connolly Bosch. All his books link in. They're quite clever. And the weirdest thing is that his Lincoln, there's a film of the Lincoln Lawyer, the Michael Connolly book.
Uh-huh.
The books after that in the Lincoln Lawyer reference the film, The Lincoln Lawyer, because it was made about him. And the Lincoln Lawyer practices his Matthew McConaughey impression to impress people that have seen the film. And it's really weird. Just that sort of meta-ness in it.
That sounds very much like I won't spoil it, but there's a very similar kind of gag in the Ocean's 12 movie, which Ocean's 12 overall not a great film, but there is a gag in that movie that, in fact, a central pivot of one of the big kind of finale con trick that they're trying to pull involves a very similar kind of meta, and I loved that aspect of that film. I think the film overall kind of doesn't work as well as the first one, but it that moment I thought was absolutely glorious.
Can I just have a moment of appreciation for how restrained I was to not suddenly start shouting "Pivot! Pivot!" when you said the word pivot then?
Why would you shout pivot, Scott? Have I missed something?
It's a Friends joke.
Is that the sofa stuck on the stairs?
That's the one, yeah.
Oh, Friends of series. I thought you were just being really rude to me.
No. I'd be far more obvious.
Only Scott's friends get RJ, and you didn't. So that makes you
fill this podcast with jokes just for my friends, and that specific category cuts off anybody I've met after 18. So just yeah.
And the other thing, I'm reading a book called Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake, which is about how everything is fungus and we owe all life to fungus, and it's equally fascinating and creeping me out. Nice. But it's brilliant. And yeah, so guys, let's go to Justin so we don't forget him like you rudely did, Kit. What have you been mediating recently, Justin?
So I don't really watch an awful lot like TV or TV series. I mean, the things I caught only the other day, I watched a couple of Adam Curtis documentaries on Amazon. I don't know if you've ever seen any of that. I mean, they're on the BBC and they've been kind of collected up and chucked on Amazon. So I watched a couple of those, which I always kind of find fascinating. I mean, documentaries in themselves, they're always going to come in at a certain angle. So when I'm watching these, I'm thinking, well, they are missing a few things out here and there. But what I like about his documentaries is how he just kind of shows how things can be really interlinked in the world, how something can, have a reaction to something so much bigger later on. So yeah, all really fascinating. The last one I watched was The Politics of Fear, which was talking about how Al Qaeda and stuff was kind of largely created in the eyes of governments. So they use that as a way of trying to get everyone galvanized behind something. That was the idea of it. So it's interesting. Always interesting to see things like that.
I always think that Adam Curtis' stuff, there's something very poetic about it. I don't know what it is, the way he presents.
Yeah, well, his narratives are very well done, I think, because all documentaries have to tell a story at the end of the day, don't they? And he does tell them very well. Like they'll always be linking back to certain things, and like you say, there's like a poetry to it.
I get him and Jonathan Meades mixed up, and I love them both. But I mostly love Jonathan Meades because he looks like a living droopy dog.
Excellent. So there was that. The only other thing I wanted to do a couple of rewatches recently, because I'm over the last couple of years, especially with lockdown kicking in, I kind of went back and started watching things again, and I realised that you actually, when there's so much media out there, it's like, oh, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? So you're always looking at something new, which is great because that shows you something new. But to go back and rewatch something, you can really dig into it and you can really understand kind of how it's working or its good points, etc. So one of the rewatches I watched was the original Poltergeist,
Nice.
Which was just like the cinematography in that. I didn't ever really pick up just how well done that was. But that was amazing. And then there was another film, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, a film called Upstream Colour by a guy called Shane Carruth.
I've seen the first two of his films, but I haven't seen that one.
So you've seen Primer, have you?
I've seen Primer. Yeah, I watched Primer 3 or 4 times when I was writing my time travel book to see if I could work out what the hell was happening. And I drew many flowcharts that were very helpful in trying to make sure that my story made a bit more sense than his.
Well, someone wrote a book, I think, about Primer. I mean, I remember watching Primer. I came out of Primer going, either that man does not know how to tell a story or he's an absolute genius, and I could never work out which. Upstream Colour was the one about the little bugs that you put into little worms that you feed people, and then it kind of makes them a bit weird.
Haven't seen that one.
It's on Amazon Prime at the moment. So if you've got Amazon Prime, it's on there free. But it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful movie, and the soundtrack is gorgeous in it. Which he wrote. He writes a film, directs a film, acts in the film, and then writes an amazing soundtrack over the top.
Oh, that's rude.
That's probably going to turn out to be his last film, though, after all the accusations of domestic abuse and the restraining order and all the horror that has been revealed about him recently, unfortunately.
Oh, God, I didn't know anything about that. I live in a kind of little bubble. I don't really look at hear all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's often when it happens. It's the black metal quandary. I like a lot of black metal, but you can't Google the bands.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be Nazis. It's kind of...
Sometimes they will be Nazis. It's just a sad fact, yeah.
Yeah, I made the mistake. My son wanted to watch... we rewatched Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, which is our famous Fast and Furious film, over the weekend. And it's got Lucas Black in it, who I remember from American Gothic back in the 90s, wandering around saying, Morley, can you help me, Morley? And so I thought, I'll Google him. I bet he's a nice guy. Oh, dear, that was a mistake.
Oh, dear. I've never seen a Fast and Furious film.
COVID-denying guy who posts videos of himself shooting deer with bows and arrows. It's like, mate, no.
Oh, no.
I've never... No, that's not said in any... I've just never seen it. I feel I'm missing out not having seen a Fast and Furious film. And I don't know where to start because everyone says don't watch the first one.
Yeah, I'm the same. You know what's funny about it? My dad is a massive fan of the franchise. Like, a huge, huge fan. Like, he's been and seen every single one of them at the cinema. I think some of them he's seen more than once. He absolutely adores those movies. And he just says it's just the best, like... for him, it's just pure kind of petrol head nonsense. And he just says it's just joy. And it's funny for me because, like, you know, I think of my dad as the PhD by publication, lifetime in, trying to improve, university education for everybody. And this kind of incredibly intellectual kind of, and it's like, turns out he's down in the pub corner going, yeah, Vin Diesel will drive really fast. And that's like, that's his, and I kind of love that actually, that he's got that kind of, that's his
after a day of hard education work, he just wants to watch Vin Diesel bring down a nuclear submarine with an American muscle car.
Hey, and I love it. I'm like, yeah, go, Dad. That's great. I'm glad you got your thing. That's really cool.
Going back to Poltergeist, I've never made it all the way through Poltergeist because it genuinely terrifies me. But the bit that freaks me out is not the bit that freaks everybody else out with the clown, because I don't think I've got that far a few times. But there's a bit, and I think it's meant to be nice, where a woman ghost comes down the stairs surrounded by sort of little lights that are spirits.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm just like, no, out there. No. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is about that, but just pushes some button inside me that I don't even get. And I was like, oh, no.
Well, it's just so well done, isn't it? I mean, the fact that it's set within a very modern house in the suburbs and not a creepy old haunted house. I don't know if it was the first one to do that, but it's certainly the one that was most memorable from my sort of side. And the fact that it's acted so well. I'm terrible with actors' names, but the lady that plays the mother of the family, so the mother of Carol Ann, she is so good in that movie, because there's points where she's just, she's shouting into the air, and having to react to this disembodied voice. And she does that so well, carries that whole scene, just makes it absolutely horrific while she's doing it. And yeah, I didn't pick that up really until this time round, when I suddenly realised, that's just superb acting.
Do you believe in the poltergeist curse, or do you think it's just statistics?
It's just one of those things, isn't it? No, I don't believe in it. There's a lot of things that kind of happened, but there's bad fortune that happens to a lot of people a lot of the time. Sorry, go on.
No, carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you talked about the curses, and it's like, it's very unfortunate about how some of those people died. But like the girl who played Carol Ann, she was ill and misdiagnosed. It does happen. And the guy who played Kane in the second one, who passed away, where he had an illness, and I think they were aware just how serious it was before he even was acting in that film. That's why he looks so thin. And
wasn't the other daughter murdered?
Yeah, after the first film. But watching that first film, I still scratch my head as to why that character's in there. She's hardly in that film at all. So I don't even know why that character was even written in. If you go back and rewatch it, just Yeah, you might kind of come to that same conclusion, because if I was a writer, I'd have like, well, what's she doing in there? Bin her off.
That's such a good phrase, bin her off. What about you, Scott? What have you been watching something from the past?
What have I been watching? Oh, well, from the past, I'm still working through Bergerac. I'm on to season 2 now, and in breaking news, he's still an objectionable twat. He's not a likable character. He treats women like shit, and he really does just love himself. So I don't quite know why I'm inflicting that on myself, but Greta Scarchi turned up the other day, so that was fun.
We should do a podcast just about what you are watching and not enjoying.
I did watch, finally, I caught up with True Detective Series 3, which I did not see when it first went out. And it's brilliant. It's really, really, really good. I loved season 1. Season 2 was a bit meh, and season 3 is fantastic. So I watched that, and lots of movies. I watched The Day the Earth Caught Fire, which is a classic sci-fi, which also features the first on-screen movie appearance of Michael Caine. And there's a movie on Netflix called Triple Frontier with Oscar Isaac and Ben Affleck and the guy who stole Wonder Woman 2, whose name escapes me. And that was surprisingly good. It's a heist movie that I enjoyed an awful lot. I haven't read anything, and I've been listening to Big Finish's Doctor Who spin-off Companions series.
Oh, okay.
So I've been listening to their Rose Tyler series, their Donna Noble series, their Captain Jack Harkness series, and their River Song series. I've been binging those over the last few weeks.
What about you, Kit?
Funny, the topic and the theme of revisiting stuff certainly seems to apply. So we finished our rewatch of Justified last week.
So good.
Just perfection, really, as a TV show, I think. It's interesting. I do like how I'm trying to say this without spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it. What I think I love about Justified is that the very first episode, the pilot episode, is actually a microcosm of the narrative of the entire 5-season arc.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that was purposeful or not, but I just love that about the show. And that's not to say that it doesn't do an awful lot of things in between episode 1 and the finale. It does, obviously, but I just love that aspect of it. I've forgotten about I'm completely spacing on the actor's name now, but the big name who comes in, Sam
from Roadhouse.
Yeah. But the guy, I always think of him as the cowboy in The Big Lebowski, because that's where I know him from. But anyway, amazing. And he's like, he normally plays a good guy and he plays a villain, and he's just fantastic. So that's been good. I rewatched The Thing because I was doing a podcast with a friend of mine, George Lee, about The Thing. So I got to rewatch that. Sam Elliott, thank you so much. Yeah, that's right. So I rewatched The Thing, and I did it for my Patreon backers. It was a live writing exercise, so I was taking notes while watching it. And one of the few times I've really resented having to take notes while watching a film, because The Thing is just, I just find it, I forget how compelling I find that film. Like, it absolutely, it's a magnet for your attention, that movie. Like, it's impossible for your focus to wander while that film's on. It really is an absorbing experience. And so that was a lot of fun rewatching. That's been fun. And we're carrying on the rewatch vibe. We've just started rewatching Cracker, which I think is one of the best bits of television ever made. I tell you what, though, this time rewatching it, it's my first that was comfort TV for me in my early 20s, so I have watched it a lot. But revisiting it now after a 20-year gap, maybe, good Lord, it looks old. I'm watching the original DVD, which is basically the video pressed. It's the 4:3 aspect ratio video just spanked onto a disc
on film. Why hasn't it been remastered? Hasn't it been remastered? Drives me nuts.
I don't know, because I've got a memory that it goes widescreen for season 3 or something, or maybe towards the end of season 2. But season 1 is just this horror. But I kind of like it because it gives it for me, it gives it a nostalgic edge. But it's weird watching something that was screamingly contemporary for me when it came out. You know, like so of the moment and up to date and bang on it. And looking at it now and saying, this is a period piece now. This is absolutely now, you know, situated in a time and a place that feels kind of a bit alien, you know, a bit distant. So that's been a...
You should mention that, because I'm not saying my wife's in love with Walton Goggins from Justified, but she did specifically ask, what else has he been in?
Okay, I found out yesterday, and I'm still coping with this knowledge. Walton Goggins made a film in which he plays a hitman who is attempting to assassinate Santa Claus, who is played by Mel Gibson.
I bet that never got released.
No, it's out, man. It's out there.
My God.
I only found out about this yesterday, and I have to watch it.
Yeah.
But we went back and watched The Shield because he was in that.
Yes, he was.
First of all, I will say his acting has come on a lot by the time he gets to Justified. And secondly, like Cracker, The Shield is massively uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
Because it is of its time. Mm-hmm. And any sympathy I had for those characters at the time, I no longer have. I just think they're all awful. But because of that, I went and I watched something called The Commish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is, I don't know if it's before or after The Shield.
It's before. It was, that was why he nearly didn't get the role, because everyone thought he was this lovely, cuddly, likeable guy.
Yeah, it's hysterical. Not for the reasons it thinks it is. But knowing what you know about the police now, if you watch The Commish, you will just sit there and wet yourself laughing. And also he has hair, which is weird.
I mean, The Shield's an interesting one because I always hated all of them. I really did. Like, I hate watched that entire show. I mean, that's what I found compelling about it, was I was following people that I absolutely despise. Funny enough, same experience now with Sons of Anarchy, where I'm still slogging my way through the final. I'm just determined to finish the fucking show. I'm not enjoying it anymore, but I want to finish it.
That.
And funny enough, Walton Goggins is in that, you know. Yeah, you know what? Let's not. But that's
while we're talking Chickless, my favourite fact about Chickless, because I was listening to a podcast with him not so long ago, and his big break, he played John Belushi in a biopic of John Belushi called Wired, which just died, and you cannot find it anywhere now. It's been sort of suppressed.
I'll talk to you about Michael Chiklis later on in a secret place.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Kit.
No, it's okay. So yeah, I'm crawling towards the end of Sons of Anarchy. I'm determined to finish it. I can't imagine I'll ever want to watch it again, but I do want to. I still think Hamlet in a motorcycle gang is one of the best ideas for a TV show anybody ever had, and I'm still pissed off with how it's been delivered in the last couple of seasons, but it is what it is. And I think that's it for... and we're watching Loki, and so far that seems fine. Reading, I am rereading Diamonds Are Forever, because I'm going to be doing a podcast about the movie, so putting off watching the movie because I don't want to watch it because I've just had enough of Sean Connery in the role now, so I'm rereading the book. What's the other book I'm reading? Oh, I'm reading Tade Thompson's Rosewater for the first time. And
that's
that
brilliant.
Is absolutely phenomenal. It's just like, it is one of those slightly off-putting because it's just so next level good. It's one of those kind of, you know what I mean? Like, you're reading it thinking like, why exactly am I bothering and trying to do this thing? Because this is just like incredibly, like, frighteningly accomplished.
And how much do you hate the main character as well?
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Absolutely. He's done a crime novel called Making Wolf.
Okay.
Which is also extremely good and uses a similar thing where you don't like the main character at all. And it has a scene in it where somebody is ripped apart by, cars. Somebody's tied to cars and ripped apart, and that is it haunts me. There's no warning in it; it just comes in, and I'm friends with Tade, and I hate him for it. So, but also, he won't thank me for saying this, but he's obsessed with penises. In his books, they seem to crop up an awful lot. The penises. There's one in Making Wolf where he describes somebody's turned up trousers as looking like penises, which is what made me call him out on it.
Okay.
Well, that was a conversation stopper. Well done.
We've gone back to the start again, haven't we, really?
Oh dear.
Right, where do we go? Where do we go from here?
Anyway, yeah, have you got all the Rosewater books? Okay, I've not read the third one yet.
No, I haven't got them all. No, I actually was. I was actually gifted this one. So I was gifted the first book. So no, I don't have the other two. But I it seems impossible that I'm not going to pick them up after. I mean,
I've read the second, so I'll send it to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, very
yeah.
quick. Yeah, I mean, unless this completely falls off a cliff in the last sort of 100 pages, this is. I can't wait to read the next one. It's quite astonishing. I mean, there's a lot that's brilliant about it, but I think the thing for me that is sticking with me is a kind of like, I don't know how to do that well. It's effortless world building. And I just don't understand how something so bloody hard he makes seem so natural and part of the narrative. Is so clever.
While working as a doctor.
Well, working as a doctor, for crying out loud.
Isn't
You
it?
can go off some people, you really can.
I'm just looking at my notes. I'm quite proud of myself for writing notes for our podcast thing, and it's time to do something that Kit invented, which is the concept of the text, which is that book, Justin, or piece of film, or something that you saw at just the right time in your life that is in or it can be music, anything. It could be that is there in everything you do.
Oh, it's there in everything I do. See, I had a little think about this sort of before, and there was two kind of things. So, like, the first one was like, is there a book that kind of turned me on to say I want to be a writer and I want to write horror? And I don't really think there is. I think a lot of the time, I always wanted to write. You know, ever since a kid, I enjoyed it, and it was just something I always did ever since I was at school. So I couldn't really pick anything up from that. But if I kind of looked at a book that I kind of go back to, and I guess it was one that kind of did stick with me, when I thought about the kind of horror and stuff I'd kind of like to write, I think when I picked up Clive Barker's Cabal and then subsequently Weave World is probably that book where I went, actually, horror can be very different things. And Weave World itself, actually, although I would say it's particularly in everything that I write, when I do actually come to write, because, you read a lot of stuff, you consume a lot of media, and sometimes I need to kind of reset myself. And in order to reset myself when I write, I actually have a really old battered paperback copy of Weave World, which I pick up and I will read a section of it before I actually start writing. And I find that a bit of a palate cleanser for me, just because I really like the writer. Clive Barker's a fantastic writer.
Weave World's amazing because I think it's the first book that taught me you can do anything, because it's essentially, if you just say it out loud, a stupid idea. But it's not. It's amazing. You read it and you just, oh my God, world in a carpet. Stunning.
Yeah. Well, I love the central idea. I always have done. I thought it was fantastic. But yeah, and it's just all the different ways it goes. And I'd never, I grew up reading things like, those fighting fantasy books you used to get when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
All those sort of things like that. So then when I saw, and I would read horror stuff as well, but like the two would kind of meet, and that was very much really infusing the two together and going, horror can be a bit like this, or fantasy can be as dark as this. It was like, oh, okay, it's interesting. But and just his prose. I mean, let's say, just reading sections of it, I love the way that he'll write stuff, turn of phrases, descriptions, and it just kind of really helps to kind of focus myself back in before I actually go and write again. I think that's important because I have a tendency to, if I stop reading, when I finish reading a book, I go away and I think in the same way that book is written. My thoughts actually come out in that same way, which is a bit weird. But it's always kind of happened. And so I can find myself really easily writing in somebody else's style, and I just don't want that.
Right.
I think There's one of Clive Barker's that's always in my head as well, and it lives in my head, and it's a short story called The Yattering and Jack.
That's from Books of Blood 1, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've just never forgotten it. I don't know what it is about that story. It's just stuck. I couldn't actually tell you what that story is about, but I just know that it is in my sort of mental geography of writing. That it had a massive effect.
I mean, that's interesting. I adore Weave World as well, and I read that at a very impressionable age, and it did a massive number on me. Actually, I think for me, the Barker that I carry closest is The Thief of Always. I think that.
Oh, I thought you were going to say me.
No, there's this chap called Dark who's really got some chops. Yeah. Really, yeah. It's like if you did crime fiction, but you really went for it. It's good.
Never gonna happen.
He's not an award winner though, so no. I love Thief of Always so much. I think that is I think it's a perfect bit of storytelling, genuinely. And what I like about thinking about what you were saying there, Justin, about Barker's prose style, I just like how clean it is. So for me with Barker, it's how he just gets out of the way of the story. For me, his prose just kind of bleeds into the story almost all the time, and then just every now and then he'll drop in a little turn of phrase or a little, killer description or something that kind of hits you really hard. But he's so good, and it's so. I think you appreciate it all the more when you read if you ever read people who. I think he spawned a lot of imitators, and I think they miss that the invention needs to happen on the ideas level, not necessarily always on a sentence level. Do you know what I mean? And some of the prose could get a bit florid and a bit obtuse and a bit whatever, and it's like, oh no, you've missed the point there. The point is to have these insane ideas. That's the thing, and then actually tell them as clearly as you can. But that's Weave World. Oh god, what an amazing piece of work.
My friend Max, who's a comic book artist who lives in Canada, he was the artist for Clive Barker's Saint Sinner, which was a comic book he did with, I think it was Marvel, in the 90s. And he used to tell me the story of the night Clive Barker took all the Marvel execs out on the town in New York and showed them a world they had no idea existed.
Brilliant.
The story is unrepeatable in this forum. It's a good one.
Did I imagine it? Or was it recently said that he's going back to Hellraiser?
He's done that. He wrote the Scarlet Gospels, which...
that was debatable, wasn't it?
Well, his name's on the cover. I'm not getting drawn into it. I think some people liked it, some people didn't. I think even the people that liked it which I did as it happens, would have to concede it's not exactly vintage Barker, to put it mildly. The movies, there's been a lot of talk about the movies getting a proper reboot with him on board, but I don't know if it's actually happening or not. I don't know. I mean, he is apparently getting back to writing again, properly. That is apparently because he very, very nearly died. He was very, very, very ill for a very long time. But
I did wonder what happened because he just vanished.
Yeah, he got. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called toxic shock syndrome.
Right.
And it it is lethal. And he was in a coma for a while, and he was very, incredibly ill. And we're very lucky to have him still with us, to be honest. But yeah, it's taken him a long time. I think, as I understand it, he's painting more these days than the writing, and he is still painting in quite a prolific kind of level. But the writing's certainly coming slower, and it's difficult. He's got quite a lot of stuff that's unfinished that it's not, no one's quite sure. And I have to say, candidly, some fans after reading Scarlet Gospels, not sure they want him to finish some of it now. Which is really sad. But it's like, if it's not going to be as good as the kind of as the stuff that went before, then maybe don't bother. Which is, I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult, but I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like. I think for me with Barker, he's one of those people that I genuinely feel has a completely unassailable legacy if he drops dead tomorrow, or he lives to 100 and never writes another word, or if he puts out Drek between now and the moment he dies. I don't care. The Books of Blood will always be sat on my shelf. Weave World will always be up there. Thief of Always will always be up there, and they're just untouchable as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, like you say, if you write something again and no one particularly likes it, it doesn't matter. The other books are still there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's it, really. I think. But
Katie's saying that's similar to her feelings about the Anne Rice's continuing Vampire Chronicles.
yeah, I think that's not a completely unfair comparison. I mean, I did enjoy Scarlet Gospels, I really did, but I am in a minority on that, and I enjoyed it on a kind of pulp horror level because that's what it is. It's kind of a pulp horror novel, and I think for people who were really invested in the mythology of the Hellraiser stuff, I can understand why they felt let down because it wasn't packed.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
sure.
the thing with someone like Clark Barker coming back to writing is like anybody that has a length of time between producing stuff which is critically acclaimed and then not doing anything and then coming back. There's always that weight of expectation. How can they live up to that anyway? I mean, you see it in media across, films, books, music. Always happens. And then someone will release something and it won't be quite what everyone had dreamt the next one would be because the artist may have decided they're going down a slightly different route anyway. And the audience might not have caught up because they're more interested in what the old legacy was.
Talking of changing genres, I'm going to throw this in at Justin. If a wizard appeared, I'm allowed to have wizards because I'm a fantasy author, and he removed your ability to write horror, but you could still write, what genre would you step into?
Easy peasy. So I do poetry. So the reason why I
Just say that louder for Kit. Say again.
Just leave it alone, RJ.
Would you not like poetry, Kit?
I don't not like poetry. I just don't connect with
Like
it
poetry?
very often.
Mate, have you read the right stuff? I mean, it all depends. I mean, the reason why I even started writing again...
Did you hear that noise he made?
Yeah, I tried to ignore it.
Yeah.
Well, I went down the route of going... I studied writing at university, got a degree in it, fine, brilliant. And then afterwards, I got really put off from writing because I found that whenever I spoke to people, I'd say, I want to be a writer. Oh, what have you written? Nothing. And so I thought being a writer was just an excuse for being a lazy pothead or something, right? So I just kind of distanced myself from it for about 10 years. And it was only when I picked up a book of Bukowski poems and read them that I fell back in love with writing. It was like a massive seismic change for me of like, oh yeah, this is really good. So I started writing poetry based on, using in similar style of what Bukowski would kind of write. And from that then got me back into writing. And then I started writing, prose again. So I started writing actually stories. But yeah, I've been poetry something I come back into and out time and again. And I'm not married to horror. There's a couple of ideas of things I want to write which aren't horror. They're not. I don't even know if they are a genre. They're just a book, But for me, the reason why I think I started writing horror when I started this process. I mean, I love monsters and scary things anyway, so that was always going to be the case. But when I started to write, I was turning, I think, into this, and I've spoken about it to other people before. But at the time, I was going through a really big breakup. So I was really heartbroken. I was really, really sad. And to me, horror is a very nostalgic thing because it's something that I kind of grew up with. I watched when I was a kid and I've loved throughout my life. So it's there as like a safety blanket. It's comforting to me, which that might sound odd to some people that aren't horror fans, but everyone has that kind of thing that they'll be comforting to. So I went back to that, and that's why I started my writing career in horror.
I think a lot of horror writers say that it's comforting, and readers that you can turn it off, you can shut the book, which is quite, it's a safe space.
I mean the nice trick with horror, and I've seen this. The first time I really encountered this was when I encountered the writings of a writer called Tracy Fahey, which I then later went on to publish. But she writes these amazing short stories that when you close that book, they're in your brain. And those stories don't go away for a long while afterwards, just thinking about them.
We've had Tracy on. She was one.
We have, yeah. We had Tracy on the show.
I'm just going to duck out for a second because I'm going to get a book of poetry off my shelves so I can tell Justin about it because I think he'll like it. So talk amongst yourselves, lads.
That's the most blatant high roading I've ever heard in my life. That was back me up, Scott. That was actually obnoxious, right?
That was yeah.
That was, come on, man. That was
Yeah.
after I was so nice about his alter ego and his crime novel, and that's how he repays me.
Yeah, no, Kit poetry's good. You just got to read the right stuff. There's so much different stuff out there.
Yeah, people keep telling me that. It's probably true. I don't know. Look, I'm not against it. I'm not against anything. I mean, my goodness, whatever gets you through the night. Life is short and brutal and unpleasant. If something brings you joy, have at it. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, go with God. I'm not bothered. But it's just,
I don't know. Some of the poems I studied in school hurt me.
Well, okay. There you go.
Some of them I love, though. We had to study Byron's Don Juan, which our teacher insisted on calling Don Juan, which just drove me berserk and made me want to kill him with knives. But we did read that in school, and it was really funny. It actually really, really made me laugh. So
there's some poetry I absolutely hate, and I get very, very cross when people call Jim Morrison a poet because he's not. But a lot of it's really beautiful, like the one I've just told Justin about, which is Ishii and Hutchinson, House of Lords of Commons. It just blew me away when I read it. Stunning book.
Tell you what, when you talk about other things you'd want to write in, another genre or a type of thing I would love to write in, because some of my stories always, the endings would fall into certain ways. And then my editors, my brother, would turn around and say, you're writing a James Bond book again, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, no, sorry, I need to change that about the horror. So I think there's a James Bond book in me somewhere.
Oh, I have the best name for a James Bond type hero. You could steal it if you want.
Go on.
Dirk Swagger.
Oh, what?
A friend of ours was single for ages, and she told us the perfect man for her. So we set up a pretend dating profile for an MI6 man called Dirk Swagger, and she saw through it immediately.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, she actually just texted me and went, "Dirk Swagger could only be you." I was like, "Ah!"
Nice. I've actually got a James Bond novella all plotted out. If Bond ever does actually come out of copyright in my lifetime, I'm writing it. I've got it. I know I've banged on about it here before.
Copyright in Canada or somewhere.
That's right, yeah.
Well, Warren Ellis isn't writing the comics anymore, so you could try and pitch it to the comics.
It's not, but it's a specific. It's set. It's a sequel to Moonraker. It's set, and I mean the novel Moonraker, not the movie. It's the novel Bond specifically, and it's set in I sent Bond to the Iranian counter-revolution in '56, and I should find someone to pitch it to because it's fully formed and it's
Can you just make it not Bond?
Not really. I mean, it's got Hugo Drax in it. It's got the Moonraker rocket in it. It's completely linked in with that.
Just change the names. You're fine, right? Because I have thought about doing that myself. Like if I write this, just change the names.
You know what I was thinking of doing? Honestly, this is how sad it's gone. I was actually thinking of nesting it inside a book that claims to be a critical appraisal of the Bond novels, and sitting it in the middle of that as a kind of example of something that one could have done.
Yeah,
and just totally cheating. But then that means I have to write a bunch of non-fiction essays about, which I could do because I've read them all and I've got thoughts. But it seems like an awful lot of work just to write the Bond novella that I want to write anyway. But anyway.
Somebody has asked me to read from Ishii and Hutchinson.
They haven't. Stop making things up.
Look, it's there. Look.
Katie Tree. Right, okay. You also, Katie Tree, are going on the list.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm going to read you 3 lines from a poem called Phaeton, because they are proper. I just saw these in a Twitter post, and I thought, right, I'm having that book. They found him with an empty third eye, the bullet drilled into his forehead, a death hole, knowing only its own darkness, there in the parched grass field, flies whirled, a sun chariot's axle songs. And I just heard that and thought, you bastard. That's genuinely brilliant.
Oh, Waits lyric. That's not poetry. Fob me off for that nonsense. I wouldn't notice.
That's as near as you're ever going to get to saying that you like poetry, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If I think it sounds like a song lyric, yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Talking of song lyrics, I don't mean to spring a surprise on you, Kit.
What? What's going on?
But we're going to do the bit where I ask everyone to come up with a song they'd like to where they'd like me to forget to put on the Writeopolis playlist, which is what I have shamelessly done for the last 3 episodes. Do you want to start?
Me?
Are we going to have to go through the recordings and recreate the list?
Well, no, I've got them all written in a notebook.
All right, okay.
So the basic problem is RJ can't read his handwriting, which we've established many times now, beyond a reasonable doubt.
And there's also no filing system in my notebook. It's just it's not like a pristine notebook. It's one I've had for 10 years, and I'm writing in the spaces I can find in it.
Nice.
Yeah, so it will happen. But and Justin mentioned music, so this seems like a perfect excuse.
No, that's fine. Okay. Well, I do actually have one because I bought some music for my birthday, which was earlier in the month, and
was it music, Kit, or was it music from a bygone age?
It was new to me. They were CDs I didn't previously have in my collection. Yes, that counts as new, I think. They had shrink wrap on them, some of them. So there were two Rancid albums, All the Moon Stompers and I can't remember the name of the other one, and a Ginger Wild Heart album called... No, that's gone as well. Market Harbour was the Ginger Wild Heart album, which I haven't listened to yet. But I've listened to the Rancid albums, and I've especially listened to All the Moon Stompers, which is awesome because what it is it's a collection of all of their ska tunes in one CD. So they always do at least a couple of ska tunes on each album. Obviously, Life Won't Wait, they did quite a lot. But it collects them all in one album. And it's basically, I've just been driving my family mental with it by putting it in the car every time I go driving and then driving too fast because I'm listening to Rancid and it's awesome. So it's going to be a Rancid tune. It's going to be one from Off the Moon, All the Moon Stompers, and I'm in no way delaying because I don't know the names of the songs on the album while I pull it up online. I don't want to give that impression. That would not,
We were driving along and we had a 90s playlist on, and Knock on Wood by the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones came on. That is a tune.
Right.
It's just an astounding tune.
Good. Well, I'm not sure why we're talking about the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones when I'm talking about Rancid, but I'll let that slide because we are friends.
It's ska-ish.
Whatever. Wrongful Suspicion is the tune I'm going to go with, which is absolutely fantastic tune. But the entire of All the Moon Stompers is glorious, and I can't recommend it enough.
Okay. Should we go to Scott now?
I have been listening to songs from when I was in Poland. I don't know why. I went through a day of just listening to lots of songs that were big when I was living in Poland in the mid-90s. And so I'm going to choose a song called Jenny by Edyta Botasevich, which is the only song in a foreign language. It's all right, I've popped it in the chat. It's the only song in a foreign language I can actually sing all the way through phonetically, and I have no idea what I'm singing. But it is on Spotify.
I'm going to choose. There's a song by Father John Mystery called Hollywood Forever, which is it's all right. It's not brilliant, but there's a cover of it by somebody called Marissa Nadler. I don't know anything about her. That is utterly heartbreaking. So I'm going to go for her sort of semi-acoustic, shimmering rendition of that song, which kind of lifts it up to another level. Because I'm always really impressed when somebody can do a cover that does something better with the song.
Mm.
Yeah, covers have either got to be exactly nailed the same, and then if you're thinking, well, okay, fine, I might as well listen to the original. But when they're bringing their own style to it, it's fantastic.
I don't usually go for people that bring songs down because I'm more an angry, aggressive music person. But it just turns into something quite sinister and lovely. So, what about you? You said about music. So, tell us a bit about your general taste.
In music, well, yeah, it's always a hard question because I'm a huge music fan, so I like pretty much most things. I mean, I grew up listening to hip hop, which then morphed into listening to grunge because of my age. But whilst I was in love with that stuff, my brother was all into the rave scene, you see, and he would be like picking up stuff that, you know, jungle that went into darkness and went into drum and bass. So I always had that going on in the background as well. The stuff I got into over the years after that is things like big fan of folk music. Became a massive fan of kind of like ambient drone stuff. Huge fan of that. And post rock, yeah, punk, metal, loads and loads of. I just like lots of good music. I like stuff. Psych rock is something I've been listening to a lot recently, and do you know krautrock is what they used to call it? Like, yeah. So I got really. So I occasionally like go down little rabbit holes and go, oh, let's explore this, and I got really into exploring that. So like. So listening to bands like Faust and Can and stuff like that, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is really good. And then that led me on to the Horrors, because then the Horrors did a track which was very much like that, called "The Sea in the Sea," I think. Absolutely beautiful track. But yeah, I mean, I love music. I love listening to it, and I love prattling around making it as well. This weekend, I bought myself a new computer the other day. So I could actually start playing around with music on it, and that was a lot of fun. Dug out the guitar and the bass, got some drum loops going over the top of it, and yeah, hours of my time spent prattling around making some very strange music, mind. I'm not sure if it's ready for people to listen to just yet, but I don't know where I'm quite going with it either. But that's half the fun.
Any form of music program on my computers because I'm a failed musician, and I know I would just lose myself in it. In making really bad music again.
Why'd you say you're a failed musician?
Oh, because I was rubbish. I have no understanding of it. I enjoyed doing it, but I was just really bad at it. It's like I won't do karaoke because I am an insult to the songs I would try and sing. I enjoy
that sounds like
music.
me. Yeah, I love it. You know, I can play some stuff, right? I know some chords on the guitar. I understand where the notes are on a fretboard. But if you turned to me and said, right, what key is that song in? I'd be like, what, the front door or the back door key? Do you know what I mean? I'm terrible at it. But, you know, if you got like you play a guitar and then you pick a bass up and you can just hear, you can understand whether it's in tune and, you know, whether you're on the right key, if it sounds right. And so I'm just all like, just joyously make stuff up. Give it a go.
There is something joyous about making music. Absolutely joyous. And it's really easy to lose myself in. But I'm quite. I would stop writing and do that, and I need to do one thing.
The distraction. Yeah. I've been really good in the fact that I've got. I set myself so. Yesterday was my day off of not doing anything to do with writing or publishing. And so that day was my day where I was allowed to play with the music. And now that goes away again. And I'm not allowed to touch it unless next weekend, if I'm allowed a day off again, then I can do that. But that's the only times for me. I have to separate those boundaries. Otherwise, like you say, I just get lost in it and not do anything else. And the music I know wouldn't be good enough to sell or anything. It would just be good enough for my own ears.
It's why I can't have Steam on my work computer when I write on, because I would just play games. I'd just do that. I've put a song in the chat that you might like if you like folk and you like drum music. I really like folk music, and there's a whole movement out of Denver in the US that's country music via the Sisters of Mercy. And they produce genuinely terrifying music, and they're wonderful. And I've put a link to something up that you might enjoy. But anyway,
cool. I mean, I don't know if there's such a genre as drone folk, but there really should be if there isn't.
Yeah, I'd listen to that, and I'd try and make there's. I'll send it to you via Twitter because one day I'm going to get. Oh no! Did you ever listen to Fab Tool, Kit?
I don't know.
It's all with a video with the weird bear and the skeletons and stuff.
Maybe.
Having grown up in the folk clubs of the 1970s and having listened to more floor singers than I could possibly count, I can assure you that drone folk is a thing.
I've got to be honest, I assumed it just meant bagpipes, but I'm a bit out of touch, so maybe that's... I don't know.
But
you've got to sing it with your finger in your ear.
Yes.
And your eyes closed.
Yeah.
And it only works if you've got a particular type of beard.
Right. Okay. That's good to know.
But we've not got Justin's song yet.
We haven't.
For our list, possibly.
Yeah, so I had to think about this. And so the song I'm going to choose is kind of a bit of an awkward song, really. So it's a band called Animals That Swim, which were a band that came out in the 90s, sort of around the Britpop era. Not many people really kind of heard of them, but they were fantastic. Lyrically, really literate. And on their second album, which was called I Was the King, I Really Was, they did a song called East O'Neill Street. Now, the song is sometimes, if you dig it out on things like Spotify, it might be on there, or things like Apple Music, etc., it will most probably be mislabeled because on the back of the album, they got the running order the wrong way around. So the tracks, the Greenhouse and East O'Neill Street were the wrong way around. But of course, in the days of you would know it if you were listening to the songs, but then when it got transposed over into iTunes or whatever, people just took the back of the album and then just put that over. So, but it's a fantastic song. What it's about is somebody someone got shot dead, and people put flowers down around on the floor, to commemorate them. And this guy, he notices all that, and they're all lovely, and then the storm comes, and then it makes them all wet, and then they all get ragged. So he picks all the flowers up in a wheelbarrow, and he takes them home, and he puts them in a book, and he presses them all flat in this book. So he's got them there. And then on wet days, he says the ghost sits in his kitchen and starts leafing through the book. And it leaves a mess of fag butts and tea leaves in his house. And that is pretty much the song.
And there's two possible titles for it.
Well, it's called East O'Neill Street. That is its actual name. But it might be mislabeled as the Greenhouse. It opens up with the opening lyrics is "Someone got shot dead round here." So if it's got those as your opening lyrics, then that is the song, and it's wonderful.
I think I vaguely remember the name of the band, but I don't think I ever heard anything by them. It sounds familiar as Animals That Swim.
Yeah, I mean they were around in they were. I think like people like The Enemy and Melody Maker and stuff really loved them sort of back around that time. But yeah, they only did three albums. I am a proud owner of every single thing they've ever released. Not the physical medium, but the actual songs. That's the thing that I care about. And over the years, they released some stuff on on a retrospective, and some stuff I was able to pick up singles which hadn't, to get all the B-sides they hadn't released. And it took me years, but without any piracy and making sure that everything I'd bought, I own every single thing. And that's one of my few proud things in my collection.
I'm like that with the Afghan Wigs.
Well, as in getting everything they've got?
Yeah, everything they've got past one album. There's kind of some earlier stuff where they don't actually become the band they're going to be. And then the moment they do, after that, I've got everything.
It's great, isn't it? And do you love everything?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? And even the B-sides are these absolute gems.
Yeah, and they're still touring, and they're still an astounding live band, which is, if you get a chance to see them, they're wonderful.
Oh, that's fantastic.
This whole conversation's... Oh, go on.
So I'd just say there's nothing better than when you go see a band. If you know and you love everything of their discography, that when you go to see them play live, you just can sing your heart out. I saw Pavement when they did their Reformation tour when was that? Like 2008, maybe somewhere around that time. I went to Brixton Academy to see him, and it was amazing because I knew every song, and I knew I was going to love every song. Just wonderful.
I've not thought of Pavement for years.
Amazing. Not the best gig I ever went to. The best gig I ever went to, I was with Kit.
Yeah, well, I was going to talk about that actually. Yeah, because you were having this whole conversation reminded me of two things. One, I just had to mention it because you've all been talking about it, and Justin, especially, you were talking about working on music on your computer. You reminded me that in one of the last interviews, if not the last televised interview that Ian Banks did after he got his diagnosis, he described how actually he spent quite a lot of time noodling about on a keyboard with his computer, composing music, which is, as far as I know, none of that ever got released. And it certainly wasn't something he did professionally. It was just what he did for fun in his off season, because Banks would write a novel a year, but he'd write a novel in 3 months, and then basically take the other 9 months off. And a non-trivial part of that time was spent writing music, which, again, as far as I know, no one's ever heard. So that's really kind of interesting. And I say that because obviously Banks is an absolute hero of mine in terms of, certainly as a literary hero. But the other thing that you reminded me of, Justin, was I'm going to add a bonus track to the playlist because it's our show and I can do what I want. And I'm going to add the Prophets of Rage, Unfuck the World, because it was absolutely one of the very best live shows I've ever been to in my life, was Prophets of Rage at Brixton Academy. And it was Justin and I were there, along with my stepson and Duncan. And it was just spectacular. It was Brixton Academy, and what I love about that venue is occasionally you get a band there that it can't quite be contained by the space because the band is just slightly too insanely brilliant, and that was certainly the case for that show.
It was amazing, wasn't it? I mean, it was basically a greatest hits of Rage Against the Machine, Public Enemy, Cypress Hill.
Yeah.
With Rage Against the Machine. So Prophets of Rage, they were the Rage Against the Machine
backing band. So Tom Morello and the rhythm section. And then Chuck D and Be Real on vocals. I mean, what? It was just astonishing. Yeah.
I'm going to allow you to add that just because I'm really glad that you weren't somehow pulling it back to Bruce Springsteen.
Not this fortnight. No, I'm giving you this fortnight off, RJ. But you never know when it's going to happen. You're never safe, right?
It is.
Yeah,
see,
exactly.
I've never gone down the Boss route. He's not an artist I've spent any time listening to.
I gotta be honest, Justin.
Like you, absolutely adore him.
I gotta be honest, Justin. We're still friends and everything, but you have let me down tonight quite badly. I gotta be honest.
Well, you see, I can say
between the poetry and not really digging Bruce Springsteen,
Well,
I invited you on in good faith.
In my defence, the Springsteen thing is maybe if I gave it time, I would be a devoted fan.
I was going to say that.
If it helps, his lyrics are like poetry, only good. Does that help? Yeah. I don't know if that helps. Does that help?
I've got to say, Kit, I think Justin's been one of our best guests.
Oh, shit. We've got to ask him the dinosaur question.
Yeah.
This could go 3 for 3 now. We've got to ask him the dinosaur question.
Yeah.
All right, no pressure, Justin, but this could be the end of our friendship.
We should get Scott to ask it.
Absolutely, because Scott's the neutral party here, as far as we know.
Yeah.
Okay. Justin.
Yes.
Think carefully before you answer this question.
Okay.
Which is best? T-Rex or Triceratops? T-Rex or Triceratops?
Only the choice of those two, right?
Yeah.
Well, what other dinosaurs are there?
That is... I mean, there's so many dinosaurs, but... okay, we're only going with those two dinosaurs. Shall I give you... So, they're both very, very good.
I love that he's feeling the pressure. No,
I'm thinking through my reasoning on this, and I'll tell you, right, and it's got to be T-Rex.
Yeah!
No!
Yes! Vindication! Good news, we're still friends, Justin.
Did you ever watch that?
Always my favourite. You were always my favourite, Justin.
Everything's forgiven.
Always my favourite.
Did you ever see that documentary about Tyrannosaurus Rex that Chris Packham did?
Is it the one where he did the voice of it?
They did a whole... No, they did... So they had the skeleton, which was in Berlin's museum.
And they were going through trying to sort of building it up on what it would actually look like. And there's this really interesting thing about why the Tyrannosaurus Rex has such little arms.
Mm.
And what they reckon it is that the Tyrannosaurus Rex had basically 2 stages in life. And the first stage when it was young. And when it was young and small, the arms were relatively normal size, like compared to its body and its legs and everything like that, like other dinosaurs you would see. And at that stage in its life, what it would do is they were the hunters. So they would run around and they think that they would kind of like herd animals, run animals down into the jaws of the bigger ones that would then be able to come in and then crunch them. And they reckon that the Tyrannosaurus Rex would then, after a certain point, go through like a puberty where it goes through a massive growth spurt, and it would grow so big. Everything grows big except for the arms, and the arms would stay the same size as when it was in that juvenile state.
That sounds incredibly stupid, which is just not surprising that it's a T-Rex, really.
That's just awesome. That's just, yeah. I love them even more, and I didn't think that was possible.
If only they had horns, then they might just be a bit cooler. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they don't need horns. They've got, like, teeth the size of horns almost.
Exactly. You know? Justin understands.
Yeah, well...
the Triceratops is, it's a bit like a bloated unicorn, isn't it, really? At the end of the day. It's like a rhino. It's a dinosaur rhino, yeah? It's cool.
Yeah, but it's right. It's like
T-Rex cool.
Exactly. It ain't T-Rex cool. Like, that's going on a T-shirt, Writeopolis. Citizens of Writeopolis, that's your first T-shirt right there.
It's cool, but it ain't T-Rex.
It ain't T-Rex cool.
We're just a sad little Triceratops.
Yeah, exactly.
Just looking a bit down in the dumps and about how wrong people can be about the king of dinosaurs.
Well, Justin, thank you for being literally the best guest we've ever had on Writeopolis. Just phenomenal. I never doubted you, by the way. Never doubted you for a second.
What that really shows is how rare it is for people to pick T-Rex, to be honest.
Is it really?
No. Everyone picks T-Rex except for RJ.
Yeah, that's not true.
Isn't Stegosaurus
in my mind? Shh.
Stegosaurus has got like spikes and big plates and
that's
a big
true.
tail.
Yeah. So yeah, even they're better than Triceratopses. Yeah. No, you're right. Triceratops is even the best boring dinosaur. Yeah. Good point.
This is what happens when you read about Bruce Springsteen. Kit gets quite vengeful.
It's
true. Yeah, you press that button, there's no going back. That's it. I'm just,
You know what you guys need to do? You need to write a poem about a Triceratops. That'll convince Kit.
Triceratops poetry, yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
I'd be shocked if it doesn't exist. We've run over by half an hour. But had a wonderful time. Shall we call it a day? I'm losing my voice. I don't know if you can tell. Can you hear that?
Yeah. Well, that's probably a good indication that we should stop. If you're no longer capable of speech, then podcasting probably not the medium to be working in.
There we go. Somebody has put up best Triceratops poems on Poetry Soup.
Yes. Because if you Google only Triceratops poems, you get exactly the same list. So, Justin, before we let you go, please let the lovely people who've been listening know where they can find more about you and your work if they want to, and they should, because you are awesome.
The best place to go to is sinisterhorrorcompany.com. If you go onto there, that's my publishing place, which then contains links to like my books as well as all the other books I publish, and also has links to the social media outlets that we go on, which is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Cool.
We actually should have Justin back, so we didn't even get on to talking about indie publishing. which people might probably be quite interested
That's right.
in.
Which is one of the reasons.
I'd love to. If you guys ever want to sit down and have a chat with me about, indie publishing and how that all works, happily. You guys have been great.
We should do that because we actually didn't even get on to writing really in many ways. Again,
we ever really talked about writing?
We did with Mark Catley.
Did we?
Yes,
Yes,
Paper
we
and
did.
Book. We did. We've got we're 2 for 12.
2 for 12, I think. And this might make it 2 for 13, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's consistently inconsistent. I think we can claim that at least.
All
All
You've
right.
been brilliant, Justin. And I've sent you a link to FabTool via Twitter.
Okay, cool. Lovely. Thank you very much. Check that out.
And if you're ever bored, just tweet poetry at Kit. He loves that.
You know I'm going to, don't you?
I suspect it may become a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you like T-Rexes, so you're okay. You got it where it counts, kid.
Right.
All right.
Thank you. Oh, have we got Gav Smith next time?
We have got Gav Smith next time.
Yeah, if you all want to be getting ready to talk about how much you like Guns N' Roses, that will be quite funny.
I'm seriously, we do need to offline coordinate, because I think if all 3 of us pick songs off of Appetite for Destruction, that will actually make his head explode.
Yeah,
I'm really quite down for that. I think as well that the gag's got to be to make sure that we emphasise what we really like about the songs is the tempo changes.
Yeah,
that's what really makes it, because that'll be great.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
He'll just cut us off eventually.
You think?
He'll walk out. So lovely to have met you, Justin, and hopefully I'll run into you at some place, FantasyCon or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, you going to FCon, are you, this year?
Yep.
I am. Yeah, you going,
Excellent.
Scott?
Yeah.
I'm booked.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Cool.
cool.
And everything.
I'll see you guys there then, providing we can all COVID don't stop it all.
Yeah,
I'll be really easy to find because I'm actually got a Sinister Horror Company trading stand, I think, as well. So
Right.
if I'm not at the bar, I'm there. One or two.
We'll come and play. We're trying to convince them to do a live Writeopolis.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
do
the
that.
dream.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't know if
See
they
if we
will.
can.
They might want to appear professional.
Never stopped them before.
That's gonna say, they've let me speak many times, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, to be honest. I think we'll be fine.
Question is, who are we going to get to wear the T-Rex and Triceratops suits for the live dinosaur fight?
For the Harry Hill style. There's only one way to find out.
Yeah.
I'm representing T-Rex. Come on.
Yes. We've chosen our warrior. That's good. I like it. All right.
God, it's not hard to find a Triceratops, can it?
See, I think it's going to go proportional. We're going to end up with a gang of T-Rexes and one very tiny, very scared Triceratops.
But that's
And then it's
entirely
just,
wrong.
No, that's entirely right. Survival of the fittest. That's how it works.
Triceratops is the I think Triceratops outlasted T-Rex by quite a bit, or is it the other way around?
This is the
It's definitely one way round.
You're so sure then as well. That was what made that art.
I think this is the point where they start fading in the music.
Well, yeah. And on that Jurassic/Cretaceous bombshell, I think. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Writeopolis records alternating Sundays via Discord. To take part in future shows, visit patreon.com/Writeopolis podcast to find our server details. You can also support the show there in return for Discord perks and early access. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and spread the word. Thanks again. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid it. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah.